Okay, says the Rabbi.
Yo, thanks for bringing that out, brother.
There's two ways Moshiach is going to deal with Klal Yisrael. He will mashmiach them, affect the Jewish people in two ways. Okay, so that's the general subject of this Sikha. Aleph. When we want to, the Rambam in the Laws of Kings over here, he categorizes Moshiach that he has two jobs that he's going to do. Aleph. Moshiach acting as a king, which is, says the Rabbi, Yaakov Kol Yisrael Leilach B'derech HaTorah Mitzvah, to force all the Jewish people to go in the ways of Torah and mitzvahs. So he's forcing, he's using force. Yilcham Melchames Hashem, to fight the wars of God. She'ein Mamlichem Melech Chila Ela Lasis Mishvat Melchames. Says we do not appoint a king. What's the point of appointing a king? That is in order to judgment and war. So the first thing we just said is Moshiach acting as a king, which is basically the way the Rebbe is saying it is forcing, fighting someone that's aloof on top of your head, above you, that's controlling, fighting. That's number one. Beis upulosoi. Say lachan. The road back to do driving. Finished the advertisement ad. Okay, so we're saying over here Moshiach. The Rambam says he has two jobs, so to speak. The Rambam categorizes. One point is he categorizes Moshiach as a king, that he's forcing people to go in the ways of Torah and mitzvahs. He's fighting wars of God. That's number one. Beis Moshiach acting in Moshiach's job as a nasi, as a leader, which is he will teach everyone Torah and will show them the way of Hashem. So this is not I don't think you should put on top of the sefer. It's not
I was actually thinking that when I did it. Why?
Yeah, you have because you're not meant to put anything on a sefer.
Nothing on the sefer.
Yeah, as of respect, nothing should be on top. Okay,
even Sicha. Wait, is my mind?
Yeah, don't worry, no problem. I'm just.
But you can lean it against.
This was here. I didn't. Whatever. I don't know.
Is it allowed?
You're making a good point.
You realize he's putting up photos.
I didn't bring the safer to do it.
It's a very good mashal.
And it's on the side. It's not on
we
top.
don't see ourselves. Yeah, what?
I think it's different.
I'm not being recorded now right now.
We're
still recording?
So you are.
Okay, very
good. That's maybe even more holy, no? But I think there's a difference maybe than I'm putting it on top and leaning it, but whatever it is,
Yeah. Okay, just go ahead.
Okay. And the Rebbe says, "V'yuven in yonam shel bezi fani hashmo shel Melech HaMashiach v'hektim bir mashakosov b'yacheskel." Now, in order to explain these two types of jobs of Mashiach, it's through explaining what it says in Yecheskel, which is this week's Haftorah. This is a sikha from this week's parsha. It says like this: "Va'avdi David Melech Aleim v'roya echad yeh lekulam." My slave David will be a king on them, and one shepherd will be for them. V'yashavu ala oretz, they will sit on the land. Goimer ad olam forever. But David Avdi, David my slave, Nasi lehem le'olam, will be a leader for them, a teacher for them forever. These are two psukim in this week's Haftarah. Now the Rebbe is going to analyze the differences between these two psukim. We have to see what's the reasoning for the changes between these two psukim. Aleph, Melech oy Nasi. One pasuk says, David, my slave, will be a king. Another pasuk says he won't be a king. He says a leader, a nasi. Beis aleihem, over them, oy lahem, to them. Is he on top of them or he is to them? Eye to eye or from above? Gimel va'avdi David, David avdi. What the first pasuk says, va'avdi David, my slave David. The other pasuk says, David avdi, David my slave. Why does the pasuk change around the order of what's first, slave or David? Also, we see the pasuk says, "David, my slave, will be a leader for them forever." The first time where it says that he's going to be a king for them, it doesn't say forever. Even though you're going to tell me, why does it say forever? Because the pasuk earlier, the pasuk where it says forever, like a leader forever, it said he'll be on the land forever and he'll be a leader forever. So you're going to say, why does it say forever? Because it's a continuation to the beginning of the pasuk. The beginning of the pasuk says they'll be on the land forever. So he also says he'll be a leader forever. But the Rebbe says, nevertheless, Mikol Makim moving. For nevertheless is understood. Shechidush zeh, sheyeh nasi lo this that he's going to be a leader forever. Shayich la toyir nasi dafka shalachei lo nakat kan toyir melech because of akoidim ala nasi. It's understood that this idea of foreverness, eternity, is specifically connected to Moshiach's job as a nasi, as a leader, not as a melech, as a king. Because the pasuk could say over here he will be a king forever. Why does the pasuk change its word? It doesn't say the word king over here when it talks about being forever. Even though it's a continuation of the beginning of the pasuk, which says they're going to be on the land forever, the pasuk could continue and say, and he's going to be a king forever. This is the pasuk changes the word, takes out the word leader, a king, like it said in the previous pasuk, and it says leader is because the idea of a leader, this idea of being a nasi, Mashiach's job as a nasi is forever. And now to explain these 4 to 5 questions of the Rebbe on the changes of the pasuk, the Rebbe explains. This will be understood through first explaining what the Gemara says, which this is a huge chiddush of the Rebbe, a very fundamental chiddush in understanding this Gemara now, what the Rebbe does over here. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rav, he says like this: Hashem is going to stand up, bring to the Jewish people, set up for the Jewish people a different David. Rashi. A different David that's going to be a king, is going to rule over the Jewish people. A different David. Shenamar v'avdu es Hashem elikeyem v'is David Malchus. Asher okim lehem. The pasuk says they will serve God, and David the king, David their king that I will set up. I'll pick him up. Okim lehem. I'll set him up. They're going to serve the king that I'm going to set up, which means it's what?
That there's going to be a different David?
Yeah, so that's what the Gemara says. It's going to be a different David. Now the Gemara is Madayik, right. Is going to be a king over them. Now the Gemara says, is Madayik in this pasuk. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Marav. What does the pasuk say? Which is this week's Haftarah also. Hey Kim Loi Namar. It doesn't say that I have brought in the past. They're gonna serve the king that I brought to them in the past, which means David HaMelech himself. Hey Kim Loi Namar Ela Okim. It says that I will stand up in the future, which means there's a different David. That's what the Gemara says. It's David Acher. There's going to be a different David HaMelech in the future. Okay, so from here we know that there's going to be a new David HaMelech in the future, which is referring to Moshiach. Rav Papa tells to Abaye, and he says,
Moshiach is going to be named David? I thought it was Menachem.
There's many names of Moshiach. The Gemara, even where it says Menachem, it says Shiloh, Yanai, Chizkiah, Tzemach. There's a whole bunch of names. Nachman, whatever it is. The Maisa, it's Menachem, but the Gemara says David. Okay. Rav Papa Abaye v'aksiva David Avdi Nasi Lem Leilam. So Rav Papa tells to Abaye what the pasuk says in this week's Haftarah also. David Avdi, David my slave, which seems to be David HaMelech himself. What does it say regarding to David HaMelech? Nasi Lehem Leilam. He's going to be a leader forever. So what are you telling me? There's going to be a new David, which means the old David won't be there anymore, so to speak. He won't be ruling anymore. David HaMelech won't be a king in the future. The ruler comes, David HaMelech won't be a king, there'll be a new David. But the pasuk says David will be a king forever. Well, Mashani, so the Gemara answers, Gogoin Kesar, Upalgi Kesar. There's going to be a king, and second to the king, there's going to be 2 kings ruling when Moshiach comes. There's the main king, the new David, the different David, which is Melech HaMashiach, and he's going to have an assistant, second to the king, which is David HaMelech. And Rashi, like Rashi explains this Gemara, you go in Kesar or Palgi Kesar, a king and a second to the king. Melech is going to be a king, V'sheni lo, and a second to the king. King David HaChadosh Melech. So too, the new David will be the king. Dvar Malchus asher akim lahem, asher akim. The David HaMelech that I will set up. So there's going to be the new king. But David HaMelech, when he's going to come up and he's going to be the second to Melech HaMashiach. The pasuk says, so Rashi is even Madaik, it says David HaMelech will be a leader, and it doesn't say he'll be the Melech. Because who's going to be the Melech? Who's going to be the king? Melech HaMashiach. And David HaMelech is going to be second to the king. He won't be the main king. This is the Gemara. So the Rabbi asks on this Gemara a few questions. What did Rav mean that Hashem is going to set up a different David? Shemelech HaMashiach nikra David, ve'eini David HaMelech. Or Shemelech HaMashiach nikra David, Dvar Malchus Mashiach harakal yosem mizera David. Why is he? What's this different David? That Melech HaMashiach is called David.
Why not David HaMelech himself?
Yeah, what's this different David HaMelech over here? Right. Why are we learning out of this pasuk David HaMelech? The Moshiach is, and why is Moshiach called David? He's a different David. It's not David HaMelech. It's not David HaMelech himself, and he's a descendant from David. So why are you calling him David? Call him, I don't know, maybe give him a little different name. It sounds like David HaMelech himself. Base. My kushis Rav Papa vaksiv David Avdi Nasi Lahem La'olam. Harei bepashtus David kan loy koi al David HaMelech ki im al Melech HaMashiach kvi shepirshu b'mefarshim al HaPasuk shnikra gam kein David u'yosem mizera David v'hu David acher trusted that Kadosh Baruch Hu l'hamlich al Yisrael. Yeah. So now Rav Papa says, what are you saying? That David HaMelech is what do you say? The Melech HaMashiach is going to be the new David. The pasuk says David is going to be a king forever. What do you? Because the pasuk says, well, that pasuk that says David is going to be a king forever is also referring to Moshiach. Moshiach is called. These older mafarshim on this pasuk say David is going to be a king forever. It doesn't mean David HaMelech. It means Melech HaMashiach. So you're bringing a proof from a pasuk that's talking about Moshiach. The Moshiach is going to be a king forever. To say that it's going on David HaMelech, and now you're telling me from this pasuk we know the Moshiach is going to have a second to the king. Well, this pasuk is talking about Moshiach. So how are you asking a question on such a thing? So the Rebbe explains. So now that's question number 2. Gimel. B'divrei Rashi v'David HaMelech sheni loi k'diksiv nasi lahem v'lei kosuv melech v'arei mefurish b'kosuv shlifin is a kanal v'avdi David melech aleim harei shegam David nikra melech gam la'osid lavei v'pashas mishnei kshuvim medubar eidis adam David echad. The third question is, Rashi brings the pasuk with David. It says David HaMelech is going to be a second of a king. Why? Because the pasuk says, David Melech Aleim. David is going to be a king. So we see from this pasuk, because the pasuk says David is going to be a king, so we learn from this that David is going to be a second to Moshiach. The question is, this whole Haftorah, this week's Haftorah, where it's talking about why are you saying this pasuk is referring to Moshiach, and that pasuk is referring to David HaMelech. The Pashas were all talking about one person. How do you know? You don't see any difference. They both say, "For David Avdi Malach Aleim." Why, when you're talking about the Nasi, you're saying that's referring to Malach HaMashiach? And the other pasuk is, when it's talking about Melech, you're talking about Mashiach. When it talks about Nasi, it's talking about David HaMelech. Where are you getting this from? Why are you splitting this into two? You're proving you're asking. It's a kasha on Rashi on the Gemara, yeah. Right, right on the Gemara. The way Rashi explains the Gemara just strengthens the question. You're bringing me another pasuk to say that David's going to be there forever. Well, that pasuk is also talking about Melech HaMashiach. So why are you trying to kvetch that this is David HaMelech and this is Melech HaMashiach? What's the difference between these pasukim? And because of that, we're splitting it into two. Dalit, which this is a very strong question. What does Moshiach need a second to the king? Why does he need David HaMelech to be there helping him out? He can't run the show himself, he needs help. Mishnah HaMelech, he needs a second to the king. Palgi Keser, like the Gemara says, a half a king. We do not find such a thing by the Davidic dynasty, by the Davidic kingdom, that there was a king and a second to the king. By other kingdoms, you can have a king and a second to the king. A Mishnah Melech, Melech HaMashiach, or by Zera David, Malcha Beis David. We don't see such a thing of two kings. So why in the Geula will there be a Melech HaMashiach and a David HaMelech helping him out? The Rebbe adds even more that in Halacha we don't find such a concept even of a second to the king. Maybe in the Gemara and Medrashim you can find, but in Halacha there's no such a thing. In regards to a Kohen Gadol, so the Kohen Gadol is considered like the king of the Kohanim, and the Kohen Gadol has a second to the king of the Kohanim. But all of this is in Kahuna. We do not find such a thing in regarding to kings. Regarding to Kohanim, yeah, but not regarding to Melech. Move on, Shitachan Shamelech, Yemana Sheni Loi. Avaloi Matsinu Ba'alacha, Shiatoikiv Meyuchad Lemishin Lemelech, Yeser Al Shar Sori Melech. It's possible that if a king wants, he'll appoint a second to the king, but we do not find in Torah, in Halacha, such a concept that a king could appoint a second to the king and he should have any type of an advantage more than any other ministers.
What about Yosef, but that was in a Goyim kingdom?
Exactly, that's a Goyish kingdom. But what the Rebbe is saying in Torah, we don't find such. I think the closest we'll find is by a Kohen, but that's nothing to do, but we don't find this in by Melachim. Gam yesh ledayik Melachim Hashas, Kegoyin Keisar, or Palgi Keisar. Also, we can be medayik in the words of the Gemara. Why does the Gemara say Moshiach is going to be a Caesar and a half a Caesar? David HaMelech will be a half a Caesar. Why is it using this Aramaic term of a Caesar?
The Greeks.
A Greek term, right? Amai nakat lashon Caesar. Shahu shei malchei roimi. Why is he using a term of a Caesar, which this is the name of the Roman kings? Why doesn't the Torah use the words of the pasuk? These pasukim say Melech is going to be a Melech. In other places in Torah, by whatever, there's such an idea of Mishnah la Melech, right? By Pari even. Why can't we use Lashon HaKodesh? Why do we have to say this idea of Mashiach being a king? And he's going to have a second to the king, an Aramaic term of Caesar or Palgi Caesar, Caesar and half a Caesar. So now the Rebbe is going to come and say a very, very big Chiddush in how do we understand this whole Gemara. Maybe we can say, or the Rebbe says we can say that what Chazal say doesn't mean literally, which means what isn't literal. It's not, this Gemara does not mean that in the future, in the Geula, there's going to be two people running the Jewish nation. The way the Gemara sounds simply, anyone that learns the Gemara, this is the way he understands it. The Rebbe says, well, no, that's not what it means. The Gam lefi divri Gemara mashakosov David Avdi Nosi lahem koy al Melech HaMashiach v'loi David HaMelech ki gam Mashiach nikra b'shem David kanal ela sheba Melech HaMashiach atzma yiu shnei gdarim Keisar upalki Keisar kidlikamon barucha. So here the Rebbe said the bomb, and now the Rebbe is going to explain it. It's not that there's going to be two people running the Yidden when Moshiach comes, Melech HaMashiach and David HaMelech. It's all talking about one person. In this one person itself, he has two jobs, two aspects, two things in him. He has him, the way the pasuk calls him David, Avdi Nasi Lahem, and there's a part of him called David Avdi Malach Aleim. Within the same person. So here the Rebbe is already Meramez few answers that he asked before. The Rebbe asked before, why are you taking an Haftarah and splitting it? What's the Raya of the Tarim? It's all the old same Haftarah. It sounds like you're talking about the same person. How are you splitting? So the Rebbe is going to explain this. Pirush Divrei HaGemara also that Kadosh Baruch Hu Lamed Lahem David Acher Chulu V'Ksiv David Avdi Nasi Lahem Hu. So this that the Gemara says Hashem is going to set up for them a different David. There's going to be a different David HaMelech. Then the Gemara asks, it says David is going to be a king forever. How can you say there's going to be a different David? It says David is going to be a king forever. The previous David will be a leader forever. So the Gemara, the Rebbe answers, "But Melech HaMashiach Chidush Ikri Legabe Malchei Beis David, Vafilu Legabe David HaMelech Atzmai, V'Lechei Nikra David Acher Kibidin Ze Eilu Deim LeDavid Erishin." Moshiach is going to revolutionize something totally different that never existed in history. There was by no other king in the Davidic dynasty, and not even by David HaMelech himself. It's going to be something different and new. Therefore, the Gemara says Hashem is going to set up a different David, a new David, a new king, because he's coming to bring something new that never was before. That's why it's called a different David. You can't even compare him to the first David. That's one aspect of Moshiach. So on this, the Gemara asks, what are you saying that there's going to be a different David? It says that David is going to be a king forever. There's going to be a leader forever. The previous David, which means, like the Rabbi is going to say, on this the Gemara asks, the Pasuk says David is going to be a leader. The old David is going to rule in the future. So what are you telling me? There's going to be something else. That even in the future, when Malach HaMashiach is going to rule, he's going to be similar to the old David, to the previous David. So what are you saying? There's going to be a different David, which means how could you say that Malach HaMashiach is going to be different? It says that Malach HaMashiach is going to be the same like the old David HaMelech.
Now he's going to be similar.
Yeah. That's what the Gemara asks. How could you say there's going to be a new David? It says David is going to be forever, which means not that the old David HaMelech is going to be a leader. The Rebbe is saying we're all talking about the same person. So the question is, now we have only Malach HaMashiach on the table, we're trying to figure him out. On one hand, it says he's going to be a different David, someone new, something else, something different. So this is Gemara says, how can you say he's going to be something new? How could you say Malach HaMashiach is going to be totally different? You can't even compare him to David HaMelech. It says the Moshiach is going to be similar to David HaMelech. He's going to be like David HaMelech, and David HaMelech is going to be forever within Malach HaMashiach himself. So how could you say the Moshiach is going to do something different when it says he's going to do exactly what David did?
Yeah, but you say the Mashiach is the one who's going to bring everybody to the Torah. Remember?
Yeah.
There.
So what's the question?
No, you're talking about.
Even bringing everyone to the Torah, Moshiach is going to do something else, something brand new. It says Moshiach is going to bring give a new Torah. It says Torah Chadash B'Teitei. We're not just coming back to be. He's not coming to bring back what was only.
Yeah.
Then why do we need to go into Golas? Like, what are we gaining out of all of this? Just to go back to square one?
No.
He's obviously coming to do something new. Something new that you can't even compare to what was in the past.
Oh, yeah.
So on this, the Gemara answers, there's going to be a king and a second to the king, which means a king, there's going to be two guys running the show, the main one and a second. In Melech HaMashiach himself, there's two jobs that he's going to do. There's his main job, his main role, his main way of, which is his new, the way he's different than everyone else, the way he's different than David HaMelech, the way he's new, a different David, like the Gemara says. And then there is in Melech HaMashiach a part of him which is only a second to the king, which means he also has a second quality within him, which makes him similar to David HaMelech, but that's not his main goal. That's only a second to the king. Verstehst? Mitzad achidush sheba Malchus the Malach HaMashiach legabe David nikra Kaiser for David Acher. When we're talking in regards to the Chiddush of Moshiach, the way Moshiach is different than David HaMelech, we're calling him a different David. We're calling him a king, a Caesar. He's his own in his own right. He's his own king, different than everyone else. And then there's a second idea of Mitzad Malos B'Torah Melech Mibeis David Nikra Palki Keser. Mitzad this that he's similar to David HaMelech. He's just like all the other kings of David. And he's like David HaMelech. That's the second aspect, the second of the king.
So what happens to David HaMelech?
What's going to be with David HaMelech himself? Good question. What's going to be with all the tzaddikim and all the leaders and all the great sages? So the Rebbe brings over here. It's a good question. I'm sure they're going to be busy. Well, I'm sure they're going to have some type of a role, but it's not going to be what the Gemara says over here, a king and a second to the king. I don't think anyone will be, even to Moshiach, and he's going to have like men be. You don't need. He doesn't like the Rebbe is saying. We don't see in Torah two kings, and there's no difference when Moshiach comes either with two kings. It's still one king. Just that there's a second to the king. It's a second aspect within the king himself. So there's no question that we don't find in Torah. There's two ideas because there isn't two ideas. Nevertheless, I'm sure, David HaMelech will be teaching Torah and Moshe Rabbeinu, and everyone will be teaching, even though the main teacher, where everyone will be learning from, is Moshiach. It says Moshe Rabbeinu and the Ovis, and everyone will be hearing from Moshiach.
Wow,
the whole,
is that big, huh?
yeah, is a whole new realm of Torah that he's going to teach that even they didn't have.
Wow.
Have a good day, guys.
Have a good day.
Have a good day. It's almost like to go from one level to the next in the
Everything's cleaned out.
in the
Yeah.
in the sphere. No, it's like a chain link. It has to go down and then go up. Maybe this David is like he has to connect with the old to bring the new.
You're saying Mashiach needs to have in himself an aspect that's like David HaMelech.
Like the old generation, so he can connect with them and bring them up to the new.
To a whole new level. Okay, that's a nice. The Rebbe is going to explain it much deeper. He's going to get into it, but you're pretty close, similar to what the Rebbe says over here. Okay, let's continue over here. We're getting pretty covering ground, Baruch Hashem. Now the Rebbe answers, this is the difference between the two psukim that we mentioned before. The Rebbe asked, why do we have all these differences? So here the Rebbe answers. My slave David, a king over them. David, my slave, a leader to them. So now, the Shnei HaToyarim Melech v'Nasi, these two terms of a king and a leader. Him Shnei Yonim the Keser Opalgi Keser Shiva Melech HaMashiach. These two changes in the pasuk are referring to these two roles of Mashiach, of being a Caesar and a half a Caesar. Now he says, this is why it says David Avdi is going to be a king for them forever. The Afalpi should God lo Milas HaMelech al Milas HaNasi. Even though, what's greater, a king, a Melech, or a Nasi?
Melech.
So a Melech is greater, and like the Gemara says that that he's a Melech, that's a king, and this that he's a Nasi is only a half a king. It's only second to the king. It's less important. To be the king is greater. Nevertheless, B'kol Makom Einan Esiyus V'Teila L'Gabe Milas HaMalchus. Nevertheless, the unique quality of being a leader is not nullified, doesn't disappear in front of the mile of being a melech. Maybe you say, listen, he's a melech. That's great. So we don't need nothing else. Everything else you can throw away. No. You need, and we have, even though being a king is greater than a nasi, even though a melech is greater than a nasi, nevertheless, the nasi still has a role. This, that he's a nasi, has a role, and the Rebbe says even more so than that. It's not only a Nasi also has a role. Dafka gabi Nasi nemar v'David avdi Nasi lam la'olam kidlekaman sefei. Only in regards to a Nasi, he says it will be forever. So even though, so you have a Melech and you have a Nasi. Melech is greater than a Nasi.
Did we talk about why?
He's going to explain it.
Why Melech is greater than Nasi?
He's going to explain, he's going to get into it soon.
I would think because the Nasi is only in the door, right? A Melech is, even when the Melech dies, it stays within the family line.
Nasi's political.
No, Nasi is a teacher. In the way that Rabbi is going to explain, Nasi is like the head of the Sanhedrin, is teaching Torah. And if in the Jewish people, usually there was always a Melech, the head of the Sanhedrin. There was a Nasi, the head of the Sanhedrin, and a Melech, which was the king. The king is much greater and has much more power than the head of the Sanhedrin. But here the Rebbe is saying that in Moshiach he has both aspects. Now this, that he's a Nasi, is not thrown under the rug and saying, okay, who cares that he's a Nasi? We're just focusing on the Melech aspect. No. There's the second of the king, there's the Melech, and there's the Nasi. The Melech is the full king, and the half a king is the Nasi part of him. And the Rebbe says it's not only that it's still important, and you're still calling him a half a king, you're still, the role of the Nasi is still important. It's not only also important, but the Rebbe says there's a certain aspect that's even greater than a Melech. Why? Because the Pasuk says Melech Aleim, a king for them, and it doesn't say forever. It doesn't say La'olam. Nasi, it says La'olam. So it's actually the opposite of what you just said. The Rebbe says a Melech is what stops, and a Nasi is what's forever, is what the Pasuk says La'olam. Even though it's only second to the king, but that's La'olam forever. And the Rebbe is going to explain this whole idea why. Now, according to this, we could also explain another change between the two psukim. Avdi David, David Avdi. One pasuk says, "My slave David." The other pasuk says, "David, my slave." Why the change? Avdi David or David Avdi? Says the Rebbe. Pasuk Aleph, Hamadaber b'Malchus Hamelech HaMashiach B'Tur Kesar Melech. In the first pasuk, when you're talking about the uniqueness and the specialty and the greatness of Moshiach as a Kesar, as a king, as a Melech, which in regards to this aspect, he is his own entity, nothing to do with the first David. The David Acher, his only connection to David HaMelech is that he has the name David, but he's called a different David. So when we're talking about Moshiach as a Melech, you're saying Avdi David. What's the Iker Avdi? Also David. David is not the Iker. David is secondary. When you say Avdi David, what comes first? What's important? What's the Iker? The word Avdi. The Iker is that he's the Eved. And he's also called with the name David. This that he has a connection to David HaMelech is not so important. This uniqueness and this quality of his is not because of nothing to do with him being David. This greatness of his is because that he is an Eved. Because he's an Eved, that's why he's a Melech, that's why he has everything. This that he's also David is not important, he's also called David. The David is dragged along, so to speak. But when you're talking about a half a king, which is the way he is connected to the first David, therefore when you're talking about the Nasi part, it says, the David Avdi. First, you're emphasizing David and his unique quality of being a Nasi has to do because of the first old David. Understand?
Yeah.
What's the second? What's
so the Rebbe is saying, one pasuk says Avdi David,
right,
which means, what's the Iker? Avdi. David is also David.
He's a slave, but David.
Right. Exactly. He's a slave called David.
First,
but the Iker is that he's a slave, exactly. He's a slave, which that is talking about Moshiach, the way he is unique and special in his own right, nothing to do with the first David. So when you're talking about Moshiach as a Melech, as a king, you say Avdi David. When you're talking about him, how he's a leader, a nasi, the way he's connected to the old David, where he's a second to the king, then you say the David Avdi. First you emphasize the David, and then Valpizeh Yesh Liyashiv Mashakotzav Rashi the David HaMelech Sheni Loi Kediksiv Nasi Lahem Veloi Kosuv Melech. According to this, we could answer why Rashi. How does Rashi prove that this pasuk? We asked before, why this pasuk are you saying it's going on the old David, and this one is going on Melech HaMashiach? Why the change? And Rashi says the pasuk doesn't say Melech, so therefore we know that this pasuk is referring to David HaMelech, the old David, because it doesn't use the term Melech. We know that it's going on the old David. What's the connection? Why because it doesn't say Melech, should I think it's referring to the old David? Well, according to all what we said now, we understand. Because the old David is Nasi, not Melech. When you're saying Melech, you're referring to Melech HaMashiach. When you're not using the words Melech, then you could say it's referring to the old David also, which is Nasi. Even though the pasuk clearly says within the same Haftarah, my slave David will be a king on them, says the Rebbe Sharei Shnei Yonim the Kesar Upalgi Kesar Melech v'Nasi Yiyu Ba'isay Adam Melech HaMashiach, because these two ideas are both referring to the same person. Evash HaPasuk Aleph Koi B'Mailas HaMashiach Batur Kesar Melech. The first pasuk is talking about the uniqueness and the specialty of Moshiach as a Kesar, as a king, which he does nothing to do with David HaMelech, so to speak, in regards to this aspect of a king that's in him. The second pasuk that says Nasi is referring to the second to the king, the idea of Nasi, like we just explained. So basically, we answered already most of the Rebbe's questions the Rebbe asked. Now the Rebbe is going to tie this all in to, now he's going to answer another diuk. Why does it say Aleihem and Lahem? One pasuk says, when you're saying he's a king, it says a king on them. When it's talking about him as a leader, as a Nasi, it says to them. What's the difference between being on them, above them, or to them? And also, why is one forever and one not forever? Why is one forever? See, the Rebbe says, according to this, we could explain these two jobs that Moshiach has that the Rambam says in the very beginning. We said the Rambam categorizes Melech HaMashiach with two jobs. Aleph, Yaakov Kol Yisrael. He's going to force all the Jewish people to go in the ways of Torah and mitzvahs. Hashem. He's going to fight wars of Hashem. Even the Beis Hamikdash, Yisrael. He's going to build a Beis Hamikdash. He'll gather all the Yidden, all the dispersed, all the Yidden that are spread around the whole world. He's going to gather them together. Hashem is going to fix the whole world to serve Hashem. After Mashiach will settle his kingdom, not in the beginning, he's going to be settled. All the Yidden will gather around Mashiach. Everyone will know their yichus. Everyone will know which shevet they came from, exactly which shevet they're from. With the Ruach HaKodesh that will rest upon Mashiach, you're going to go to Mashiach and say, which shevet am I from? He'll tell you, you're from this shevet, from that shevet. This is the general job of Mashiach as a king. Melech. The Rambam says the job of every king is to his drive and his thought. What does he want to get to? To uplift, to elevate, to make great again the true religion.
Make great again.
Yeah, I'm just borrowing that term. To uplift the das emes. Yeah.
So basically, the Moshiach wants you to know who you are. He wants you to know your shevet. and he wants to know what's to do Torah mitzvahs.
Right, to do Torah mitzvahs to the fullest.
That's who you are.
That's who you are.
And every
You're saying
Shevet,
you're connecting both aspects. Okay, that's a nice word.
no, like what's so important about knowing which Shevet you're from? Why is it important for a Yid to know which
Maybe to
Shevet?
know which part of the land to live in. Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is going to be split up. Eretz Yisrael is split up according to the Shvatim. Now everyone lives wherever they want to buy,
Right.
wherever you have more money, buy a house there and there and whatever.
Right.
But Eretz Yisrael is split. And if you know which Shevet you're from, you know where to live in Eretz Yisrael. Maybe that's why.
Is that you're making that up? Or
No, it says it clearly.
It says it?
Is that why he's going to tell you which Shevet? I mean, I think you put one and one together. It says you're going to split up the land according to the Shvatim.
Right now, we have 10 tribes that are lost, right? And people
Right.
really can't connect if they're part of those 10 lost tribes. There's only 2 tribes that are known still. Yehuda?
And Binyamin, but it could be that we're mixed up. It's one big challenge. You also have Shil Kohanim and Levim and whatever.
Unless you have a very good family tree that's really clear.
Right, but
How
most
would you
I don't know.
which
I
Shevet
don't
you're
know.
from?
I don't know too many people. I mean, the Rebbe has it. Certain people have it, but I don't know if everyone has it. Okay. Tonight says the job of every king is to uplift the true religion, which is Yiddishkeit, the Malus Ha'ilam Tzedek, and to fill up the world with righteousness, V'lishber Zirei Hashem, and to break the arm of the Hashem, which means the strength of the Hashem, Ole'elachem Melchamis Hashem, and fight God's wars. She'ein mamlichem melech tchila ala lasis mishvat u'melchamis. It says you do not appoint a king for any other reason. What's the reason? Is to do judgment and to fight wars. So this is one aspect of Moshiach's job, Moshiach's role. The Rambam says
What are
it.
the wars? Like wars?
So it's both. This is a whole spoken about a lot, but yes, there's real wars. But even that, you don't need necessarily Moshiach running around with a rifle. That's not if he appoints other people and he leads people, that's already considered his wars. But the point is to get rid of wicked people. That's the bottom line. Either he gets rid of them with an army, or if he gets rid of them in a different way. But the point is to fight wars.
There's a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
The Masniks, the
Right.
Muslims, the whole...
And Mashiach to fight these wars, the Rebbe says, from his perspective in a spiritual way. And that could affect Gashmias also. You see different, I think the Baba Sali said, when the Rebbe came out with the campaign of lighting Shabbos candles, he came up, he said even little girls and whatever. What he said, there was like some war then. And he said the Rebbe, like, with that light that Rebbe brought into the world, he killed like, I don't know what, 1 million, I don't know. He said something, I have to remember the exact, to be precise. But when you, our Torah, you know, in Shulchan Aruch it says it. Shulchan Aruch it says the schus of putting on tefillin, it's not like a medrash. It says in Shulchan Aruch, the Taz I think says it, when you put on tefillin someone on his arm and his head, that gives the army men power to knock off a head and arm in one shot of our enemies. Like this. In the schus of putting on tefillin on other Jews, when a Yid puts on tefillin. So this tefillin campaign, different things that it's not necessarily, it's also, but the bottom line is that your enemy needs to be out of the picture. Did you have to go with a gun and shoot him in the head? Or what's if I put on tefillin and then the guy dies? It's also good. The point is you're fighting a war against an enemy. So that's one aspect of
So
fighting.
they need to understand that in Israel, that you have the Kollel people that fight the spiritual war.
Exactly.
And then you have the army people that fight the physical war.
Right, the Rebbe says, Bochrim in yeshiva, sitting and learning, help to save the Shmira more than guys from Tzal. Or what gives them their success is the Bochrim sitting and learning.
It's hard to see it with the naked eye.
Yeah, but that's the fact.
So if they understood that and we're unified in that aspect,
Then they
that you
wouldn't
have the
make these
spiritual and
Bochrim.
the physical, and you know you have your role, I have my role. It's not because I have to go and fight and risk my life that you need to get up and stop studying and go and do the same thing as me.
Right. When we learn, it saves the Yidden. Okay, so this is one aspect of fighting a war. Right. Whatever it is, but the point, well, not whatever. That's translating it in. But this
it's
is
very interesting because the soldier who has to go off to the draft and go fight in the war, he also has the choice to go to Kollel and sit and learn. He can exempt himself from fighting in the army.
This is a little, I don't know how to say it.
Okay.
It's like a very,
One can exempt
listen,
himself.
I think a different share, but if someone
Yeah.
could sit and learn,
Yeah.
and he wants to sit and learn,
Yeah.
you could say he should sit and learn.
As long as he's really learning.
Yeah, if a guy's just drinking coffee all day and
Crossing
smoking
around
and looking at
and,
his phone, so.
yeah.
But even that, okay, I'm not the Torah authority. You have all these rabbanim that say no one should go to the army no matter what, no matter this, no matter that. I don't know anything about these stuff. How to where do you draw the line between you should go and you shouldn't go and whatever.
And there has to be a physical army, though.
Yeah, for sure. That was pro the army, pro the Israeli army. I'm saying, whatever it is, okay, whatever. We'll make a whole class about all this politics different time. Okay, base. So there's one aspect of being a king, of fighting wars. Base. The next job is that king that's going to stand up. The Rebbe is quoting the Rambam. This king that's going to stand up from the descendant of David, Baal Chochma Yeh Yeser Mishleimi, is going to be smarter than Shlomo HaMelech. Shlomo HaMelech was the smartest person in history. Moshiach is even smarter than Shlomo HaMelech, the Rambam says. For Navi Gadol is going to be a very great prophet. Chulu, Lefichach Yelamed Kol Ha'am, and Mashiach, therefore he will teach, he will learn, he will teach, he will educate the whole nation. V'yoyra Yisam Derech Hashem, he will show them the way of Hashem. V'yoyu Kol HaGoyim L'Shoym Oichulu, all the Goyim, all the nations will come to Mashiach to hear his wisdom. V'al Yodoi Tarba Deah, and through Mashiach he will make there should be much knowledge in the world. V'achachma, and understanding, v'emes, and truth. Shenamar kimola ha'aretz deis, Hashem, like the Pasuk says, the world will be filled with knowledge of God. Shema Dvar Malchus, move on. From these words of the Rambam is understood. Zeh sheba Isayaz man, chulu yesa kol ha'elam, this, that in the Gula, the occupation of the whole world will be. V'das as Hashem will be to know the Hashem. You, Yisrael chachamim g'deilim. V'yodim Dvar Malchus swimming. Everyone's going to be very smart, extremely wise, and know all the deep secrets of Torah. And everyone will understand Hashem, the Creator. The world will be filled up, overloaded, overflowing with knowledge of God, just like the ocean covers over the river bed.
That's a question.
Yeah.
That'll be because our minds are just more capable of knowing it. Like, why is it different now?
So that I was going to say right now, look what he says. Kol zeh yaldei Melech HaMashiach. Who's going to do all of this? Melech HaMashiach. So who? Yelamed Kol HaMashiach will teach everyone Torah. The Rambam, when he says everyone's going to be smart and learn Torah, he says it in continuation with this, that Mashiach will teach everyone Torah. So on one hand, Mashiach will get everyone involved and to use out their brain to know Hashem.
Because
that's what the Rambam
Moshiach
says.
is teaching it, does that mean we're going to be able to absorb it better? Or is it our brains are going to be different? They're going to be more open to receiving?
No ADD.
No ADD. We're going to have, first of all, we're not going to have nothing bothering us, disturbing us. There's not going to be no worries for this and that and whatever. So we're going to be able to be focused, to know God. And like you said, no ADD.
Are we able to
Mashiach
understand?
is going to, but the Rebbe's focus here is that this learning, this knowledge, it's a shtickle chiddush what the Rebbe is saying over here, but the Rambam says the whole world will be filled with the knowledge of God. But it's coming in continuation to him talking about Melech HaMashiach teaching everyone. So which means this, that the whole world will be filled with the knowledge of God, is because Mashiach will be doing this. He'll be teaching everyone this Torah, and he'll be getting the whole world on focus to know God and to be just busy to know God. It's all Mashiach that's causing this. It's not just what's going to be happening in the world because of I don't know what, because of different things in the world happening. It's all Mashiach, the job to make the whole world be focused to know God. Yeah?
But there will be those things happening too. Those miraculous.
Yeah, for sure. Right. All of that, right. So this, that there'll be no hunger, no war, this and that.
In the service of allowing us to learn from Moshiach.
Right. So there's what God's gonna bring in the world to make it easier.
Wow.
But who's gonna get us on focus, which means a guy can have, let's say, whatever he needs, which technically he now there's nothing bothering him because sit and learn all day. But you need Moshiach to be the one to taking everyone's brain and channeling it of the whole world, even Goyim, to focus to know God. So this is Moshiach aspect as a teacher, as a Nasi. On this second job that we just said, of Moshiach teaching everyone Torah, for this, Moshiach is called a Nasi. Al derech shebetzinu b'loshen chachamim shereish hasanhedrin hu shekorin oisi hachachamim Nasi. We see that the Gemara, Chazal, they call the head of the Sanhedrin, the one that teaches Torah, he's called a Nasi. He's the one that's under Moshe Rabbeinu. He's like second to Moshe Rabbeinu. He's instead of Moshe Rabbeinu. He's filling Moshe Rabbeinu's goal. What was Moshe Rabbeinu known as? Moshe Rabbeinu, our teacher, not a king fighting wars. Moshe Kibbutz Torah Misinai. Val derech zeh yeshleima shezeh shemashiach nikra Nasi. And therefore, so too Mashiach. Why is Mashiach called a Nasi? Is because he will be teaching Torah to the whole world. He will be guiding the whole world and showing them the way of Hashem. According to this, we could explain the difference between, in regards to a king, he says a king on them. In regards to a Nasi, a teacher, he says a teacher to them. The way a king rules, he rules in a way that he's exalted. He's above the nation. He's on top of them. He's not looking on them eye to eye on their level. A king needs to be exalted, separated, higher, aloof from the nation. That's why when it says a melech, a king, it says a king on them. He's above them. It's not so in regards to a teacher, a nasi, to teach the nation Torah, to show them the way of Hashem. This needs to be in a way that he's close to them. He has to work hard and try that the nation should understand him and they should accept. It should click. It should be accepted by them. Even though, because he's such a great teacher, he's called a Nasi. Nasi means he's uplifted, exalted. And nevertheless, had a tiyur yachse yalam hu Nasi lahem. Nevertheless, even though he's called a Nasi, but what does the pasuk say? To them, not on them. Like by a king, it says to them. The way Moshiach interacts with people as a Nasi, as a teacher, is in a way of closeness. He's on their level and he's teaching them. You can't teach and be on top of them. You need to be on their level to make sure that they understand the language you're speaking.
Nasi is like love to another, and the melech is yira.
Right. Yeah, that could be one of the simple ways to explain the difference. Right. Therefore, when he's teaching, what does it say? A half a king. He's not a full king. He's not totally aloof from them. What does a king mean? When he's teaching as a teacher, he's only a half a king. He's not a full king, which means the term king means he's separated from them. So when he's teaching, why is he a Nasi? He says he's a half a king. Why are you saying a half a king in regards to a teacher? Because he's not there to be totally a king over here. He's only a half a king. He is a shtickle higher than them, but he's also a half, not a king, which means he's on their level. He's eye to eye with them. There's a very essential difference between these two aspects of Mashiach, being a king or a leader. Polasi Shamelach HaMashiach bin Aleph, Hanogas HaMalchus Shalei, Ibaderech Chidush, Shalei Al Piteva. This the Mashiach, Malach HaMashiach, in the first aspect, as a king, is a revolutionary idea. This is not a normal, natural idea, natural concept. Through Mashiach, being as a king, there's going to be an essential revolution in the whole entire world. Like the Rambam explains at length over there, he will fix, he will correct the whole entire world. That the whole world should serve Hashem together. All the nations of the world will return to the true religion. They will not steal, they will not vandalize, until it will reach such a state that there will be no more hunger, no more war, no more jealousy, no more competition. The occupation of the whole world will not be in anything else but to know God. So all of this is quoting word for word from the Rambam. Says the Rabbi, even though the same Rambam, the same chapter rules that nothing is going to change in the way the world is running, explains that there'll be no revolution in the creation of the world. The world will stay the same world. The world will be running the same way it's running now. Says the Rebbe, what does that mean? What's the Rambam excluding? The Rambam is only excluding a change in the nature of the world. Don't think that trees that don't give out fruits will give out fruits.
The nature of creation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the nature of people, the way people will be acting, that there will be a change. This that the whole world will serve Hashem, will be focused to serve Hashem. There'll be no more war. The occupation of the whole world will be only to know God. This is a chidush, a huge revolution in the way the world is going to run that we never find so ever in history, which means the Rambam is only excluding the nature of changing. But he's not excluding, but the Rambam says the world is going to be a massive change. The focus is only on God, no more wars. That's a change. So all of this is the Melech. All of this change, this major change, is the Melech part of Mashiach. The different person, a different Melech, the Rambam says, a new Melech that was never in the past, because this is a Chiddush in history that never existed. And that's the Melech part of Mashiach, the Chiddush part of Mashiach. But it's not so in regards to Mashiach as a teacher. This the Mashiach will teach the whole nation and it will show them the way of Hashem. Even though Mashiach will also teach deep secrets that people never heard about before. Nevertheless, teaching Torah, it's not a complete Chiddush Mamish, a revolution. In this time, Mashiach is going to teach everyone Torah. In Torah, you can't make a real revolution, a real Chiddush. It's like the Rambam says, you cannot make a change in Torah, you cannot reduce the Torah, you cannot increase to the Torah. So Torah has no change. So the Torah aspect of Mashiach, because Torah has no change, that part of Mashiach is not considered something new. He's considered the old David. But mitzad this, that Mashiach is going to be not the Torah part of Mashiach, the Melech part of Mashiach, that is going to be a real Chiddush. According to this, we can explain what the Gemara says. He's going to be a Caesar and half a Caesar. Why is he using this term? We asked the question in the beginning. Why don't we call him a Melech, a king? What's this term, Caesar, a Roman term?
Goyish term.
Goyish term. So the Rebbe brings Mavur b'Tosfos. Tosfos explains b'Sheiresh Shem Keser. Where does the name Keser come from? Shahu al Shem Melech Roimi Echad. The name Caesar comes from there was a one Roman king, Shemesa Imoi Belidita, that the mother died while she was giving birth to this king. For Nifkaz Bitna, and they cut open her stomach, and they found him alive. For Nikra Caesar Beloshan Remi, and then they called this kid Caesar,
Like a Caesar.
in a Roman. The word Caesar means to cut. So this whole term Caesar, the first king is called Caesar, King Caesar, whatever, is because they cut open the stomach of the mother and they found him alive. A birth in
a way where you cut
that
open.
Yaitz means he came out of the wall. He wasn't born in a normal way.
Yotzedofen, isn't that the
Caesar.
Caesarean?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
exactly what the Rebbe is
Caesar,
saying.
yeah,
Caesarean,
C-section.
the word,
Yeah.
right. That's why Caesar. And Tosfos says, so after this first king was born in such a way, they cut open the stomach. So they said, okay, so you had king number one, so king number two, we'll call him with the same name as king number one. And all the Roman kings after that were called Caesar. But what's the real meaning of the word Caesar? It doesn't mean a king. It means someone that came out of the stomach, that it broke through the stomach. It wasn't born in a normal way. The
original put it together.
original put it together exactly. This is what the Gemara is hinting to us, that he's calling Moshiach not a melech and a mishnah melech. It doesn't say a melech and a mishnah melech. It says Kesar or Palge Kesar. What are we hiding? What are we hinting in these words, calling him a Kesar, a Caesar? Melech sheneilad ba'ifin shal yitzadayf, a king that was born in a way of he breaks through the stomach, the wall. He's born not in a normal way, in the way that the Eibishter put in the Teva, the nature of the world, that a baby is born through the rechem. But this baby wasn't born through the rechem. It came out of the stomach. This is coming to show us, to teach us, Shal Malchusei, Shal Malach HaMashiach, Pulasei Ba'ilam, this is coming to teach us that the kingdom and the rulership of Mashiach in the world is going to be something not normal, something not regular, not natural. Not according to the nature of the world. He's going to break through the wall in a good way. Mashiach Nikra Nasi and by Chiddush Kolkach Mitzadzehu Rakabegeder Palgi case of this, that Mashiach is going to be a teacher, like we said before. Torah always was, and Torah, you can't really make a new Torah. The Rambam says you're not allowed to change the Torah, so there's no real new in Torah. So in regards to being a teacher, a Nasi is only called a half a Caesar. But with this, that he's going to be a king, which his kingdom is going to be something totally new. That's why he's called a full-fledged Caesar, something new, a breakthrough.
Can I ask you a question first?
Yeah.
When we talk about the birth pangs of Moshiach, we're talking about like the pains before Moshiach enters the world, right?
Yeah.
Like the mother having pains before the baby is delivered.
Right.
But that's in the normal course of events where the baby comes down the canal of the mother, not when the baby's still inside the uterus,
Right.
inside the beten. So if Moshiach is going to come through the beten without going through the canal, what birth pangs do we have?
So we're saying over here it's two separate ideas. It's true what you're saying, that it's a new. We're calling him a Caesar. We're not saying that he's born in with what way Moshiach is actually born. We're saying his name. He's called a Caesar. Why is the Gemara calling Moshiach a Roman name, a Caesar? Moshiach is called a Caesar because he's going to break through. He's going to bring something new. What way specifically will Moshiach be born? That's a different idea. So even though the main revolution, where do we see something new, something different? Where do we see a chiddush, a change in the nature? A Caesar in Moshiach, that's in regards to this, that he's a king. But nevertheless, there is an advantage in this that Moshiach is a teacher over this that he's a king. Why? Ubapashtus says that Rabbi very simply understood. Why? The need of a king is, like the Rambam says, to uplift Yiddishkeit, to bring it to where it needs to be. Or the Malas Ha'olam Tzaddik had to fill up the world with righteousness, the Lishbar Zerayah Hashem, and to break the strength of the evil, the wicked, and to fight the wars of God. So this is the purpose and the job of a king, to fight. How long do you need a fight? How much you need a fight? If there's no one to fight anymore, you still need a fight? From this is understood that after Mashiach will fight and win, and then he's already not going to need a fight anymore. He's going to fix the whole world to serve Hashem, everyone serving God. The occupation of the whole world is not into baloney. Everyone's busy, focused on learning, knowing Hashem and learning Torah. Even the Goyim. We don't need Mashiach to do anything anymore in a way of a melech, in a way of a king, in a way of fighting. There's no one to fight anymore. Who you fight, there's no one to fight. And the main, so that's stage 2, right? So what's the main job of Mashiach gonna be after he finishes his job as a melech? Which, even though that's the main chiddush of Mashiach, but nevertheless, that's not going to be a continuous thing that we're going to need forever. What will he be doing forever and ever? That's teaching Torah, showing them the way of Hashem, and that you could go higher and higher and higher. But you don't need a fight if you have no enemies. That's the reason why, in regards to being a nasi, a leader, a teacher, the pasuk says he's going to be a teacher to them forever. When in regards to a melech, it doesn't say forever, because you don't need a melech forever. What do you need forever? A leader, a teacher. Ki iker inin anitzchius shal Malchus Mashiach einay bepa'ulas hanhagas hamalchus shaloi. The main eternity of the rulership of Mashiach is not in him being a king, acting as a melech, rather in him being a teacher. This that he's going to give to the Jewish people as a teacher, he will teach the whole nation, and he will show them the way of Hashem. And on that, the Rambam says, the pasuk says, forever. So that's a full Geshmak Sikha. The Rebbe on this week's Parsha, or the Rebbe, this was, he says over here, Achron Shal Pesach Tavshin Mem Ches, and Parshas Vayigash Tavshin Mem Beis. Achron Shal Pesach, 1982. So here we explain basically that these two, even though the Gemara sounds like two different people, it's one person, and two jobs in one person. One is from on top, that's a king, and that's a chiddush, that's something new, a different David, kind of compared to the old one. Then there's another part in him, which is a teacher, and that is on their level, and that's going to be forever. And it's all within one person, and that's to them, and that's forever. Yeah. There's a lot of footnotes and comments over here, but we wanted to, we covered Baruch Hashem most of this Sikha.
So it's a two-stage process.
Right. In Mashiach. It's two, yeah. It could be that even in the beginning he's also going to be a teacher, but the focus is the king.
What about the revelation of Mashiach?
What do you mean?
The actual revelation of who is Mashiach. When that happens, at what stage? It seems to be this, he's born, there's a knowledge that he's born into the world. But at what point are we?
So the Rambam says you're holding the book already, so you could go to the beginning, and we could see the Rambam's words himself.
He starts to do certain things.
Right? Yeah, we'll read the Rambam. So I don't know how to say this in English. X X X I in the beginning.
What do
Three
you call
X's
it?
and 3 1s.
3 X's and 3 1s?
Yeah, which number
That's
is that?
33.
Page 33?
Yeah.
Okay. So page 33 in the beginning, after that. Well, you know what? All you guys were in mikveh today, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So but this is a real Ashkacha Pratis. I have the
X,
privilege. Yeah, forget about that. I have over here this booklet the Rabbi gave. I had 3 that were in the Rebbe's hands. One the Rebbe gave my mother that I found. I told you the whole story. One is my Zaydis, and one is my Bubbies that I got from them. So now all you guys will learn the Rambam from the original one that the Rebbe himself held in his holy hands and gave it out.
Was the Rebbe a righty or a lefty?
Righty.
What you had to
Because
think about?
he put on tefillin on his left hand, so you know that he's a righty.
Uh-huh.
Okay, we'll look at the Rambam right over here. So you have Halacha Dalid. I have another one. I have 3.
So because he touched it once, it's holy forever.
Exactly.
The same way that
The
he,
Kedusha is in it.
the same way
Tzaddik.
that he walked
Halacha
on Eastern
Dalet.
Parkway. Eastern
It's
Parkway is
the
holy.
first page, all the way on the bottom. For
The
sure.
same way that he walked on Eastern Parkway. Eastern Parkway is a holy thoroughfare.
He walked through, he thought Torah when he walked in that area for sure. That whole piece of the world,
Yeah.
the shul that he was in, it has a big Kedusha. Okay, let's read the words of the Rambam. Yeah, you see?
Where are we holding?
Allah Dalit. Yeah, Vimyamid Melech. Rambam says like this. Vimyamid Melech B'Beit David. If a king will stand up, a descendant of David HaMelech, Hoige B'Torah, someone that toils in Torah. The Rambam doesn't just say Loimid Torah, someone that learns. Anyone can learn. Hoige B'Torah. He toils in Torah on a very deep level. V'oisik b'mitzvahs keDavid Aviv, and he's occupied in mitzvahs like David, his father. It doesn't say oisa mitzvahs. Everyone could do mitzvahs. Rambam says oisik. This is his business. His drive, his fire is in mitzvahs. Just like David HaMelech, his father, which David HaMelech did mitzvahs with a deep devotion and connection, like it says that David HaMelech uplifted the yoke of tshuva, the mitzvahs that he did with about tshuva does mitzvahs with a stronger fire. So this is the way Moshiach does mitzvahs. Okay, so this is the person, and then Rambam says Kvi Torah Shebeksav v'Shebalpeh, according to Torah Shebeksav and Torah Shebaalpeh, to exclude Yoshke B'Shemoi, that he didn't believe in Torah Shebaalpeh. So obviously Moshiach is someone that's in Torah Shebeksav and Torah Shebaalpeh, both. So this is the person himself. Now, in addition to this, is not only himself a person that toils in Torah and occupied in mitzvahs. In addition to that, v'Yakov kol Yisrael, he's going to force all of the Jewish people leilech ba, to go in the ways of Torah, alachazik bitka, and to strengthen the cracks in Judaism. So he's not only thinking about himself, but his Moshiach, this person needs to be someone that he is working on getting Kol Yisrael, every Jew around the whole world, to go in the ways of Torah and mitzvahs. Now, just to point out, the Rambam doesn't say v'kofa. Kofa means he did it already. It was successful. He got everyone to do it. The Rambam says v'yakov. He's talking about the person that he from his perspective, this is what his job is. This is what his goal is. This is what he wants. This is what he's trying to do. To get all the Yidden to go in the ways of Torah and to strengthen the cracks of Yiddishkeit. In addition to that, he will fight God's wars, these godly wars. This is what he will fight. The Rambam says, if you see a Jewish leader that toils in Torah, occupied in mitzvahs, getting all the Yidden to go in the ways of Torah and fighting Hashem's wars, such a person Rambam says you could already know that he has a chazaka. He has a chazaka. The Rambam doesn't say Harei is a sofek Mashiach. He's maybe a sofek. The Rambam says he has a chazaka. Chazaka means someone has a certain status that this is the person. He has a chazaka that this is Mashiach. But it's still, because he still didn't bring the redemption yet, all of this is in exile. The Rambam doesn't say builds the Beis HaMikdash. It doesn't say he brings everyone to Eretz Yisrael. It doesn't say he needs to win any wars. He says he has to fight wars. He could lose everything. Doesn't make a difference. If he's fighting these wars, if you see someone doing all of this, he has a chazaka that he is Mashiach. This is all in Golis. Down the Rambam says, if he did all of the above. Not only he did it, but v'hitzliach he was successful. So to succeed in the above is already a second stage. Now in addition to that, Ubana Mikdash Bimkoima, he builds the Beis HaMikdash in its place, which now we don't know where to build the Beis HaMikdash. Even if we knock down this mosque very soon, no one knows where to build the Beis HaMikdash, and the Rambam emphasizes that it's Moshiach's job to know to build the Beis HaMikdash. And this is actually a sign to know that he's Moshiach, because only Moshiach knows where to build it, and he's the only person that has the power to build it. And then after all of this, the Kibbutz Nidche Yisrael, he gathers together all the Jewish people to Eretz Yisrael, which the Rebbe would focus many times that it's Mashiach's job to bring everyone to Eretz Yisrael, like the Rambam Paskins of Irla Halacha. It's not any movement's job, it's Mashiach's job. And when is that job of Mashiach? After he builds the Beis HaMikdash, not before. That's the last stage, is that he brings everyone to Eretz Yisrael. That's what he says. That's what he says. Right. He built, and Rambam says it twice, also in the beginning of the chapter. He says specifically in this order, that after he builds the Beis HaMikdash, he will bring everyone to Eretz Yisrael.
So making Aliyah now, the push.
So a guy can make Aliyah whatever you want. No one's telling you not to, but no one should interpret it as the beginning of the gathering of the exiles, or beginning of the redemption, or Schal to the Gul, or any of that stuff. That's not what the Rambam...
You're not speeding it along in any fashion?
Well, the Rambam doesn't say that over here. It doesn't say that's needed for the redemption to come. He doesn't say what's needed for the redemption to come. He says that everyone should go in the ways of Torah and mitzvahs. So if he does all of this, so basically, in other words, he brings the actual redemption. He brings the redemption in reality. In such a case, then you know for a fact, you see, he's for sure Mashiach. He's certainly Mashiach, because he just brought the redemption, so there's no even, it's not only a chazaka, but he's actually Mashiach. You see that he's Mashiach. Then the Rambam says, in addition to all of this, he will correct, he will fix the whole world to serve Hashem together. Then I will transform to all the nations of the world. I'll make all the nations of the world speak a clear language. Everyone will call out in the name of Hashem and to serve one creator, one portion. Shechabachad means one portion, which means everyone's going to serve God. So you're asking, what's the order of events? So we see clearly for the Rambam that Mashiach is not someone that flies down one day from heaven with wings and he says, I'm Mashiach and a white donkey with blowing a shofar. He says a leader that gets up years and years before the redemption, someone that has a whole process, that he himself is complete in Torah and mitzvahs, and someone that he's working to make everyone do Torah and mitzvahs. That's his chiddush over here. To learn Torah and do mitzvahs, you have many Malchus, David, or many leaders. Here he says, he will force all the Yidden to go in the ways of Torah and mitzvahs and strengthen its cracks. So that was actually Matayik. What's these two terms, leilach ba, to go in its way, and lechazik bit can strengthen the cracks. The Rebbe says, so cracks is bali tshuva, and the Rebbe says leilach ba is even people that are tzaddikim. People that are already righteous. He, Mashiach, in exile, makes them go higher and higher in their Torah and mitzvahs. And l'chazik bit, the strength in the cracks, are those that are out. They cracked, they broke through, and he's bringing them back. Also, the Rebbe points out that the whole Golus came because the sages were quiet. It says they saw things that were done wrong, and they were all, I don't know what the word is, cowards, or they weren't opening their mouth to,
They didn't open up to say what was going on.
yeah, they didn't, it says Shaloi Michu.
Why didn't they?
I don't know, they were scared.
Scared of who?
I don't know, maybe for people to give them comments.
The same way, like if you see somebody doing something that's not according to halacha, you should only tell them if you know they're going to accept it.
So the Gemara says the Gothas came because they didn't tell other people, which means they were able to, but they didn't.
Maybe they didn't think they would accept it.
Well, I don't know. I don't think God would punish them so strong in such a way.
Maybe they misread the population.
Could be. Yeah.
Who knows? There's a lot of conditions that we don't know, right? Context.
But the Gemara says Shaloi Michu because they didn't.
Stand up for the
they
generation.
didn't stand up. They didn't, rebuke. I don't know what the right word is. They didn't tell people.
Rebuke, yeah.
They didn't say anything. The Rambam says Moshiach, which is coming to take away this exile, he needs to do just the opposite. He needs to stand up and make people do what they need to do.
Whether they know it or not.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people that didn't learn about it.
Right.